I'm Michael Parrish Dudell, entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author of Shark Tank Jumpstart Your Business. This is a show about discovery, about showcasing the next generation of business and media influencers. It's new, it's now, it's the next crop. Hi everyone, welcome to The Next Crop. I'm Michael Parrish Dudell. My guest today is Hugh Whalan, a serial entrepreneur who's launched companies all around the world. And right now we're going to be talking about how anyone can start a business in another part of the world. And that's if you have very little money, very little resources, how you can do it, ways, tools, tactics. It's going to be a great conversation. Thanks for watching. Hugh, that's the question of the day. How do you start a business in another country with very little access or resources?
Well, the first thing I think everyone has to do is travel. You need to travel to the places you're interested in. You need to soak up the culture, soak up the atmosphere. You need to know that you want to be there. But importantly, you're going to start seeing business opportunities as soon as you're there in person talking to people. And the thing to remember about starting a business in a developing country, it can be done very inexpensively, and there really isn't a lot of competition a lot of the time. You know, in the US, you need to be quick to market.
Yeah.
In developing countries in particular, there's often not a lot of competition. The market space is wide open. And so that offers a lot of opportunities for you and I and anyone listening.
But now, is it hard as a foreigner to go into a country? And I'm sure there's regulation, there's paperwork. How do you handle the logistics? Or maybe it's easy. Maybe I'm wrong. I've never done it before.
Absolutely. So when you're traveling to these countries and you're interested, you need to be talking to lawyers. Often you can set up some introductory hour chats that are free, right? They're trying to sell you on their service, but what you're trying to figure out is what the barriers to entry are. You can start talking to industry groups. Expats are wonderful resources in these countries because they know how things work. There's often a way that on the website the government says things work, and then
it's very different.
And then the expats will say, actually, that's not how it really works. So the first thing is get in there, get to the travel, start talking to people, and opportunities will often fall out of these.
Yeah.
Now the second thing after you've done that is funding, right? And funding is something that people worry about. I don't have enough money. This is going to be the worst thing if it fails. I'm putting a lot of chips on the line. But funding opportunities are available everywhere. For example, Startup Chile gives $40,000 to 100 startups a year who will go to Chile for a certain amount of time. I forget how long it is. And all they have to do is spend time in Chile, and they'll get $40,000.
Wow.
And the Chilean government will introduce them to investors, will give them working space. And there are a number of programs like this throughout South America. And there are scholarships and foundations and grants available to pay for people to go elsewhere overseas.
Yeah, now that's interesting. Let's talk about financials here, because I know that not only can you get grants for this kind of stuff, but taxes in other places are very forgiving. I know that in Puerto Rico in 2012, they passed something. All businesses, anything that they export, 4% tax. Exported services, exported goods, 4%, that's incredible. Are there other places like that around the world where you can get incredible tax incentives and financial incentives to start a business?
Oh, absolutely. There are lots of tax-free zones in a lot of these countries where they're specifically trying to attract foreigners to start businesses. A lot of retirees actually retire to Latin America because they can live on Social Security in these places. They don't have to pay much taxes. The healthcare systems are wonderful. So the countries that have great tax systems, incentives for startups, and a low cost of living are absolutely out there.
Now, I was recently in Panama keynoting a startup weekend there, and what was so shocking to me is that the culture here in the States, and primarily in New York, to be fair, it's really built around being an entrepreneur and startups, and there's a lot of excitement and opportunity here. When I went to Panama, I found that being an entrepreneur, they told me, very controversial. Families didn't love it. It still wasn't as accepted. Do you find that it's easier for an entrepreneur to go there and start something because the culture maybe doesn't grow them themselves there?
I think it's easier to go there and start a business because access to capital within the country is harder. Mm-hmm. They're more risk adverse, right? They typically come from a poorer background, so they're not there to take risks. And that means there's less entrepreneurial activity, and that means there's more opportunity for an undergrad who's just graduated, or for a grad student who can't get a job in the job market, and they're trying to figure out what they should do. Spend a year overseas starting a business. The worst that happens is that you fail and have fantastic experiences you can talk about in job interviews when you get back.
Now, it's so important when you're starting a business that you love your product or service. It's crucial. When you're starting a business somewhere else, is it crucial that you love the place, the location? Because even if you don't love the States, you can start a business here, you're from here, you understand it. Do you have to love the country? Do you have to love the city where you start that business?
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there are nearly 200 countries, or around 200 countries in the world. You've got your pick of them. You absolutely need to be comfortable that in X country there are mosquitoes and creepy crawlies, and this country you can't get your favorite tea or coffee. It happens. Supply chain issues happen, visa problems happen, government regulations are a pain. You need to know exactly what you're getting into.
So it's important to know not only everything about your product and service, but to know everything about that place you're going. Otherwise, you're not going to be effective at selling it, marketing, all of that.
Yeah, and it sounds like a big challenge to figure that out, but honestly, 1-2 trips and you start figuring it all out pretty quickly.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for the good advice. You can find out more about being a destination entrepreneur at Hugh's site, destinationentrepreneur.com. You can also follow him on Twitter at Hugh Whalan. Of course, all of that information is available on our site, thenextcrop.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.